Hello, everyone. What is happening in Ukraine, what has been happening for nearly 3 years now, is undoubtedly terrible. So, pardon me while I feel a little bit of schadenfreude when reading about the hardships among the people who started it all. For those who don't know, in the former Soviet Union and subsequently in the former Soviet republics, including Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova, etc. New Year was like a combination of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and a little bit of Halloween because we did have masked parties with costumes and things like that. And of course, a big dinner. So the fact that this dinner is costing them more, it doesn't change much, but good to know. Between the tanking ruble and soaring prices and products just not being there because some of them were imported and countries are no longer sending stuff to Russia, I'm kind of hoping that Russian people spend this holiday season whining. And in addition to that, there are now complaints about veterans, Russian soldiers coming from the war and stealing, raping, murdering people. Because remember, Russia let out a whole bunch of violent, dangerous criminals and sent them to war. And at the time, a lot of us were asking the question, what's going to happen if they survive and go home and get bored? Well, now we have the answer. And people are starting to file formal complaints and asking, what are we going to do when the war ends? Providing the war ever does. Good question. There is a good video on the BBC website talking about yesterday's prisoner exchange. I suggest you watch it. There's probably multiple smaller clips at this time all over news sites as well as YouTube and so on. When I talked to my parents yesterday, I actually asked about this because I knew they would know more details about this than we do on this end of the pond. And I asked, how are they? And basically, these men who just came home, these 150 men who just came home from Russian captivity, are damaged physically and mentally to the extent we can't even imagine. Some of them were crying, some of them fell to the ground and kissed the ground, but I'm sure it's going to be a long time before they can fully describe what was done to them. And, since they've already fucked up Christmas, Russia decided not to stop and fucked up the New Year's as well. Unleashing yet another major attack on Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Fortunately, Kyiv is better protected, understandably, being Ukraine's capital. So they have the Patriot air defense systems over there. So they did a good job repelling most of the attack. And again, both of us being engineers, I asked my dad about the frequency jamming and how that's going. So he told me that it's going well. So far, it has limited uses, but where it has been used, it has been very successful. That's the method that jams the interaction frequency, the communications of the drones with the drone operators. So basically, it renders them deaf, blind, and mute, causing them to veer off course, fly back where they came from, or fly elsewhere, like Belarus, for example. So that's going okay. I don't know why Zelensky is so convinced that Trump is going to do something radical with Ukraine. I don't understand. Considering Putin's administration had literally just, like 5 minutes ago, rejected every single idea Trump had proposed. So I don't know why he's so confident. There is no doubt in my mind that Ukrainians are going to keep fighting. But I think, honestly, both Ukrainians and their neighbors, their European allies, need to write off the U.S. as a complete waste starting January 20th, the inauguration day. I'm just telling you. It's, if something does come through, if somebody somehow in the Trump administration convinces Trump that Ukraine's defeat in the war against Russia would be seen as a weakness and a loss on the part of the US, maybe something will happen, but I'll have to see it to believe it. The biggest concern, of course, is the continuing, very slow, but continuous movement of the Russian troops into the Ukrainian territory. Even though it's accompanied by tremendous losses, even though Ukrainians have gotten better and better at unleashing those long-distance attacks. But remember what happened early in this year. Before you say, oh, Ukrainians are lame, they don't know how to fight. Do you remember what happened early this year? The aid that U.S. had promised was delayed by 6 months because the Congress was sitting on its ass and playing dice with people's lives. So let's not forget that. That will have a long-term domino effect, and that's what's happening. Finally, I want to leave you with this. This is not complicated. This is not complicated. This is exactly a description of the situation we have on hand right now. People who are telling Ukraine, no, just give up some of your territory, sacrifice some of your people to end the war. You're the same ones who would shoot somebody who came onto your porch unannounced. You're the same ones who would chase somebody if they stole your lawnmower. So maybe, think before you say that.